She didn't fall. The reckoning of Justice Chief Dana Merritt. A quiet gas station. A dusty Missouri road. One arrogant deputy believed he could push around a black woman minding her business. What he couldn't possibly imagine was that she was no ordinary woman. She was Dana Merritt, chief of the FBI's Midwestern Division. And in less than 3 minutes, his entire world would begin to crumble. It was the kind of late summer afternoon that felt suspended in heat and quiet. Cicadas hummed in the trees, their chorus thick in the still air. The sun stretched low across the flatlands of Missouri, laying golden slabs of light across the rooftops of homes, old barns, and faded signs along Route 24. Dana had been driving for hours, just her, and the road through farmland, over bridges, and past towns so small they barely made a dot on the map. She was dressed in dark jeans, a gray zip-up jacket, and sunglasses that reflected the world back like mirrors. Her hair, streaked with soft silver from years in the field, was pulled into a low ponytail. She didn't look like the woman who had taken down interstate drug rings or stood in war rooms with national security advisors. To any passerby, she looked like someone's aunt heading home after visiting family. But under that jacket, tucked inside a leather badge case, was the authority of the federal government and the experience of a woman who had survived more than 2 decades in law enforcement's deepest waters. Her black Ford Expedition rolled onto the cracked pavement of a worn-out gas station place that looked like it had once mattered but hadn't seen a proper coat of paint in years. The faded canopy above the pumps creaked in the breeze. One rusted pickup truck sat under the shadow of a dusty pine tree, country music crackling from the speakers. Otherwise, the place was deserted. Dana stepped out, stretched her back, and started filling the tank. She had just begun when the crunch of gravel made her spine straighten. She didn't need to look. She already knew. That sound tires rolling slow over rocks was one she'd heard too many times. A patrol car, likely a sheriff's deputy. Sure enough, a Benton County cruiser pulled in, slow and deliberate. It was the kind of entrance made by someone who didn't just want to be seen, they wanted to dominate the scene. The driver's side door creaked open, and out stepped a heavy-set white man, buzz-cut and boots dusty from months of ignoring basic uniform regulations. Deputy Bryce Kincaid. She'd never met him before, but she'd met 1,000 just like him. He walked with the kind of swagger that came not from confidence, but from decades of unchallenged authority. His first words weren't a greeting. "You lost, ma'am." His tone wasn't curious. It was territorial. Dana didn't flinch. She turned slowly, calm as a frozen lake, her hands visible and steady. "Just filling up," she replied, even and polite. Bryce looked her over like he was scanning her for something to be guilty of. "License?" he asked, already assuming there was a problem. Dana didn't sigh, didn't argue. She reached into her jacket, not the side with the badge, and pulled out her driver's license. He snatched it like it offended him. "Dana Merritt," he read aloud, frowning. "You local?" "No, sir. Passing through." "What for?" "Family visit," she said. "Long drive." That should have been enough. It would have been for anyone else. But something in her tone, or more likely, something in her skin agitated him. "You got an attitude, miss." "Merritt," he said, stepping forward until his belt buckle nearly touched her coat. "And I don't like that." Before she could answer, he shoved her. Hard. A rough palm on her right shoulder pushed her back into the SUV. "Hey." She caught herself on the doorframe, breath sharp. "That's unnecessary." But he was already reaching inside the vehicle, rifling through her glove box like he owned it. Receipts, an old protein bar, sunglasses all tossed aside. "My registration's in there," she said, voice clipped, trying to de-escalate. He found it, crumpled it in his fist, then turned on her like she had spat on his boots. And then he kicked her, a hard boot to the shin. She went down. The pain lit up her leg as she hit the gravel, denim tearing, knee slamming into the ground. Blood welled up, and the air left her lungs in a gasp. Behind her, the gas pump clicked, fuel still dripping onto the pavement. Bryce stood over her, face twisted in disgust. "That's where you belong. Stay down." And then he turned and walked away. But Dana Merritt did not stay down. Her palm pressed into the gravel, body screaming, but she pushed herself upright. She rose not with rage, but with resolve. Across the lot, a teenager had been stacking crates. Now his phone was up, filming, lens shaking slightly. He caught all of it: Bryce's boot, Dana's fall, the smirk on his face as he walked away. The deputy drove off, tires spitting gravel. Dana retrieved her license from the ground, brushed it off with trembling fingers. Her phone buzzed. Director of Operations Secure Line. She answered. "This is Merritt." "Dana, are you okay?" The voice was sharp, concerned. "We just got Flagejo fence ping off a body cam. Something happened in Benton. Deputy assaulted me. It's on a civilian's phone. I want Kincaid's full file. Every complaint. Every reprimand. Every partner." There was a pause. On it. She hung up. The teenager was still standing there, uncertain. "Send the footage to the press," she told him. He blinked, then nodded, realizing what he had. Dana climbed back in her SUV, knee throbbing, hand scraped. She pulled out her badge, then shining beneath the setting sun. She hadn't shown it earlier because she needed to know how far the man would go. Now she knew. What happened next moved faster than anyone expected. The video spread first locally, then nationally. TikTok, Hajichi, news outlets. Millions saw it. The boot, the fall, the badge. And suddenly, the question wasn't who is she, but what happens now? It wasn't about a kick anymore. It was about a system, one that had seen too much and changed too little. And Dana Merritt wasn't done. The full firestorm ignited within 48 hours. Civil rights attorneys held press conferences. Social justice organizations called for the immediate suspension of Deputy Bryce Kincaid and Sheriff Linda Calkins. But what none of them knew yet was that Dana wasn't going to stop at suspension. She had seen the patterns, knew the signs. This wasn't just a rogue deputy. This was a rotten chain of command. She checked into a motel just outside Jefferson City under an alias. She didn't come to rest, she came to build a case. The documents started flowing in. Marcus, her right hand inside the bureau, pulled complaint files that had been buried for years. For prior complaints on Kincaid. Excessive force. 2 involving minors. All swept under the rug by internal affairs officers who mysteriously shared campaign donors with Calkins. By midnight, she was staring at scanned images of body cam footage that had been quietly misplaced in past cases. One in particular stood out. A teenage boy with a bloodied nose, screaming for help, while Kincaid muttered, "Stop acting like an animal." It had never gone public. Until now. Dana created a map on her motel room wall threaded with string and tape outlining connections between Sheriff Calkins, Deputy Kincaid, local judges, donors, and a figure whose name kept surfacing in the background, State Senator Everett Grayson. Grayson was the kind of man who looked clean on paper: retired police captain, war veteran, 3-term senator, but his fingerprints were all over the mess. Campaign donations to Calkins. Lobbying to keep deputies like Kincaid in the field. Blocking civilian oversight bills with obscure legal language. Grayson wasn't just complicit. He was the architect. Dana had seen these networks before in foreign governments, in cartel structures, but never this close to home. She called Denise Hampton, the federal prosecutor who had once taken down a governor in Kansas City. "We got something big," Dana said, "and I need your firepower when this drops." "You've got it," Denise said without hesitation. But before they could act, someone tried to erase her. It started with the firebombing of her SUV. She had just stepped outside her motel room when flames erupted from the engine block, the windows shattering outward. Dana barely dodged the heat blast. Someone had tossed a Molotov cocktail straight through the windshield. Nearby, on the curb under the soft glow of a flickering street lamp, a torn piece of cardboard rested under a windshield wiper. "Stay in your lane," she called Marcus. "They've moved to intimidation," she said. "They're scared," he answered. "Good. But that wasn't the worst of it." 2 nights later, while reviewing files in her room, she returned from grabbing coffee to find the door kicked open, drawers dumped, her laptop smashed. On the bed, a shredded photo of her nephew, one she kept from his 3rd birthday, was left like a final warning. She didn't cry. She took out her backup drive, loaded the evidence, and sent it to 5 separate secure clouds. Then she called Marcus and said, We go public. Tonight. They leaked everything. Body cam footage. Internal memos. Recorded calls. One recording in particular Grayson's voice saying, "We'll handle the FBI problem before it spreads." It exploded online. Justice for Dana trended worldwide. News outlets scrambled. Protesters surrounded the Benton County Courthouse. Dana didn't say a word for 2 days. She let the truth do the talking. Then she walked straight into the Department of Justice building and handed over a 347-page affidavit titled, "Systemic Civil Rights Violations Within the Benton County Sheriff's Office and Its Political Affiliates." It was nuclear. That same day, Calkins was placed on administrative leave. Kincaid was suspended. But Dana knew it wasn't enough. They'd come for her once. They'd try again. So she set the trap. She staged a meeting at an abandoned courthouse in nearby Linville. A decoy laptop filled with blank files. Hidden cameras. Marcus waited in a truck across the street. At 4:43 p.m., a black SUV pulled up. 3 men emerged. 2 wore civilian clothes, but carried concealed weapons. One carried a walkie clipped to his belt. They kicked in the door. Searched the place. Dana stood at the far end of the hallway, arms crossed. "You think this is going to scare me?" she said. One step forward, and that's when the federal agents came in. Guns drawn, badges raised. "Hand where we can see them," one barked. The men froze. Dana stepped forward. "You came looking for blood," she said. "Now you're part of a federal conspiracy case." They were arrested on the spot. The footage edited for clarity was released that night. No faces, just voices, and one phrase captured clearly. "She's done. You hear me? Done." It wasn't just a viral story anymore. It was war. And Dana Merritt? She was the storm. Within a week, Senator Grayson's office was raided. Financial records, contracts, campaign funds all seized. The public learned that Grayson had funneled nearly $800,000 through a fake nonprofit into law enforcement PACs tied to Calkins. By week 2, Calkins was indicted. By week 3, Dana was testifying before Congress. She stood tall, knees still bruised, and told them all. This wasn't one man. It was a system, a network. And it's time we stop pretending it's invisible. They asked if she feared for her safety. She answered, "No, but the people who built this should." Grayson tried to run. They caught him in a cabin in Colorado with 3 fake passports and $60,000 in cash. His mugshot ran on every major news station. Dana's face ran beside it. 1 year later, she stood again at the very gas station where it all began. The pumps had been replaced, the gravel repaved, but a small plaque now stood near the sidewalk. Here stood a woman. She did not fall. Dana stood there alone. No cameras, no microphones, just the memory of heat, gravel, and a choice. The choice to rise, and the storm she had become. Final note. Justice isn't just about courts and laws. Sometimes it starts in the quietest Placiza dusty gas station, a crooked badge, and a woman who refuses to stay down. Dana Merritt wasn't just an agent. She was a reckoning. And to those who watched the video and asked, "Who is she?" Now they know, and they'll never forget.